matter what, people will commit to misunderstanding you. What's most important is your commitment to understanding yourself. Hello, you guys. My name's Inkira Kamandani, and welcome back to Misunderstood. First and foremost, I have to tell you guys where I am right now, coming to you live from the Empire State Building. I could cry. I'm smiling from ear to ear. This is such an exciting thing that I get to do. I can't even believe I was invited here by CoverGirl. CoverGirl has a creator studio and they found my podcast and they were like, you should come podcast here. And I jumped at the opportunity because we're saying yes to everything that comes into our life. But if you want to see some footage from the Empire State Building, from me filming in this creator studio, make sure to follow me on my socials. I will be sharing content on TikTok and YouTube and Instagram about this experience. A few housekeeping items before we get into the topic of today's episode. I created a jot form to submit questions because as this podcast grows, I really want to make it as collaborative as possible. Yes, I'm coming on the mic and talking to you guys every week, but I want you guys to be involved in some way, which is why I created this jot form where you can submit questions, you can seek advice, you can just let me know you're having a good day, or if you want to say hi. The jot form is in the description of this episode, and it will be there going forward for all future episodes. I really hope you guys take the opportunity to use it, and I look forward to seeing any and all submissions you guys have. The next housekeeping item. Please, pretty please rate Misunderstood, this podcast you are listening to right now. Please rate it 5 stars on Spotify or Apple or both if you love me. I see the back end and I see that we are at several thousand listeners, which is so exciting. So many people have tuned into this podcast and we are just crossing the 4-month-old thresh mark. I would really appreciate it if you take some time to leave a 5-star rating. Rating the show costs $0. It is such an easy and free way to continue to support me on this endeavor of Misunderstood. This is a passion project, but I do want it to continue to grow. A lot of people don't understand this, but you do have an impact on the success of the show. So please take some time literally right now and rate the show 5 stars. Thank you so much. I love you. Now, on to the episode. Today, I wanted to do a light and fun episode. I looked back on the previous episodes recently and have noticed that the subject matter has been a little on the heavier side, which is completely my intention. I want this podcast to be as dynamic as possible. I want us to cry, I want us to laugh, and I want us to be silly and serious and cover as many parts of life as we can. That is the first and foremost mission of this podcast, to dive into it all. So today, I thought, why not? Let's do one light and fun. So let's begin. You think that's okay? I want to cover things that people say and do that aren't okay. Because here on Misunderstood, it is about understanding how we move through situations when there are external factors out of our control. And everything I'm about to say is real life situations that you may encounter, or maybe you have encountered. I know that I have encountered almost everything on this list. I wrote this list myself, and I'm really looking forward to sharing all of these things with you guys. I might do future installments of this episode, so I would love to hear from you. If you have anything that you think should be added to this list, please let me know in the jot form. Number 1, DMing people that they know where you live. I think this goes without saying, but this one is wrong on so many levels. Publicly writing an address you think someone lives at is actually the craziest, most nonsensical thing I can even think of. And I, as nice as I am, I will actively call anyone out who does this, because it takes a certain type of person who lacks social awareness and lacks common sense to do this. I stand on that. That might be a super polarizing opinion, but out of the safety of other people, I stand by what I'm saying. Unfortunately, this has happened to me 3 separate times, once in San Francisco and twice in New York City. The most recent one was a girl who messaged me on Instagram about a year ago, and this was when I just moved to my current apartment in New York. She said, "Hey, I know where you live," and then started to give a lot of explicit detail about my apartment setting, my street, things that were around my apartment. It was one of the most jarring messages I had ever received. First off, what the fuck was the objective of her message? Why? Just why? Next, why do you think it's okay to come to somebody that you do not know with such private information? I am not your friend. You do not know me personally. You don't know anything about me other than what I post on social media. And as we know, that is only a small subset of our life and what we do. So why? Tell me why you are feeling so comfortable to go out of your way and message me such a private topic. Another person DM'd me asking me about how I found my apartment, then proceeded to insist that I tell them details about the building because they were interested in that building. All right, let's back up. Because no, let me hold your hand when I say this. No, I do not owe you anything when it comes to my home. And there are obviously so many safety reasons why I will not be sharing and disclosing any of that with you or anyone else. You are not entitled to this information just because you saw it on my social media. And I think a lot of people miss that mark. I think it's common sense, and I really do think it's common sense, but so many people lack that common sense and self-awareness, unfortunately, to realize when you are taking it too damn far. And then back in San Francisco, there was a guy who literally wrote in a public comment my full address. I'm pausing for dramatic effect because I don't think there's anything else I really need to say to that because we know that's wrong. Number 2, using slang when you are not a part of that racial group. I cannot speak for any other subset of the population except for me as a Black woman. The N-word, in my opinion, is thrown around way too comfortably. And I know there have been a few times on TikTok where I see certain creators getting dragged because they are not a part of this population, but they are using that word way too loosely. And to that I say, stop. Please stop. It's inappropriate on so many levels, and you don't even know the racial context behind said words. And if you did, I really would hope that you wouldn't say it, but also that just makes me question your morals as a person if you still continue to use these terms when you are not a part of that group. Number 3, appropriation of culture. As we know, Coachella and most music festivals are a huge place we see this happening. For this past Coachella season, I saw a good amount of videos of larger creators emphasizing that you should not be appropriating other people's culture, which, yes, that seems pretty common sense, such as people dressing in Native American garb and various other cultures' garb without a care of the deeper impact that dressing in such a way holds. I want to share a quick story about how I almost, emphasize almost, found myself in this situation, but my common sense saved the day before I did anything stupid. I went to Oktoberfest in October of 2023. This was coming off of my birthday trip from Paris. I decided, why not just take the train from Paris to Germany? It was a 6-hour train ride, and go to the very last day of Oktoberfest. Because YOLO, why not? This is an opportunity I wanted to partake in. I thought about this before I even went on the trip itself. So I went on Amazon and ordered the Amazon version of a Drindle. And if you know, you know, most of you know that Amazon has a lot of knockoff things, not the real items. When I received the item in the mail a few days before leaving for my trip, I took one look at it and I was like, this is more so giving Halloween costume than Oktoberfest outfit. Nevertheless, I put it in my suitcase and went on my trip. Fast forward to the day before I was going to Oktoberfest. I was in a hostel in Munich, Germany. I put on the Amazon outfit and I was embarrassed for myself. Earlier that day, I was walking around Munich and like I said, Oktoberfest was happening And Oktoberfest is, I believe, a week and a half or 2 weeks long. So as I was walking around Munich, I was looking at everybody in their beautiful, traditional, appropriate drindles. I forget what the male outfit is called, but the woman's outfit is called a drindle. And as I walked through Munich, I increasingly got so nervous about pulling out my outfit. Then I got to the hostel and I said, no. There's no way in hell that I can walk out of this hostel like this. This is inappropriate. And I knew that. And that's on common sense. And what I decided to do is walk to one of the local stores in Munich. And I had fun trying on the traditional drindles, and a few of the ladies who worked at the store were born and raised from Germany, and they explained to me the significance of a drindle, and they explained the symbolism of how you tie a drindle to signify if you were single or if you were married. And if I didn't take the time to really lean into their culture that I am not a part of, so I don't know much about, I would have been missing out on something really great. I bought the drindle and I had an amazing time at Oktoberfest. And looking back, I'm so happy I did because one, I have an amazing story to tell, but also it just made it that much more enjoyable that I leaned into their culture because I was going there for that event, which is their culture. And I should take the time to learn about the meaning and why I'm there and really lean into it. Number 4. Hate comments. I believe this goes without saying, but hate comments are horrible in any capacity. But I want to tell a really quick story. There is an account that constantly trolls me on YouTube. This has been happening for about 4 or 5 months, and I finally reported them. I'm someone who really likes to not let things get to me, but I'm also equally someone who will shut something down if it's really negative. And I get it, in the social space, not everyone is going to like what I'm doing. That's okay. But to go as far as to be hateful and be outright mean repetitively, I'm not going to stand for that. Number 5, body shaming. I remember earlier this year, there was discourse about Tate McRae, Sydney Sweeney, Selena Gomez, and it was about their body. But this isn't new, unfortunately. The discourse around women's bodies has happened to countless people over years and years and years. It's unfortunately so normalized. We really can't ignore the fact that women are at the front and center of the scrutiny when it comes to our bodies. Women's bodies aren't allowed to change, but men can do whatever they want. And unfortunately, men are the culprit in most cases who are driving this topic, who are driving the hate, who are driving the shaming. Number 6, public feuds. What I mean by this is when people make videos specifically calling people out, dragging their name and reputation, there is a way to bring up something with class, give a lot of details about the situation, but you can leave them out. You don't have to put their name in it. You don't have to give super specific details that people would know who you're talking about. And I understand when you get to be a bigger and bigger public figure, there might be some things that you cannot avoid. But outside of that scenario, I don't see the point of dragging someone's name through the mud publicly. You have an opinion. You are allowed to have an opinion. But I don't think it's fair, and I really don't think it's right to publicly name drop and publicly smear someone's reputation when you are at odds with them. Because honestly, I believe those kind of things will come back to bite you 10 times harder. With this, I also wanted to throw in feeding into rumors. I have seen so many creators talking about this, where a creator makes a video bashing somebody, doesn't fully name drop them, but people in the comments start naming certain people. And the creator of the video either likes certain comments, which is essentially feeding into the drama and feeding into the rumors, or doesn't hop in and start defending and start saying, no, it's not this person, no, it's not this person, and essentially letting the rumor spread like wildfire. I think that is also so negative and so hateful, and people really need to stop doing that. Number 7, ghosting. On either side, ghosting is wrong. I stand on that. Either girls or guys, unless the guy deserved it. Because let's be real, 99.9% of women are just protecting themselves. And I speak from personal experience. My example, I went on a series of dates with this guy in New York last summer. We went on 4 dates in total. He said he would text me, and I never heard from him again. This was after the 4th date. Like, why say it if you didn't mean it? Seriously, please let me know or don't. Another example, when a guy who I matched with on Hinge told me when and where to meet him for a date, literally sent me a screenshot of the reservation of the date, texted me a bunch beforehand. Literally, we were texting so much. Maybe that would have been a little bit of a red flag, but I was enjoying our banter and conversation. And then he stopped texting me altogether hours leading up to the date. And I had a gut feeling that I was being ghosted. I called the restaurant before getting ready, gave them his name and the time that he said the date was going to be, and the restaurant confirmed that a reservation was not made. Literally, what the fuck? Why put someone through all that if you had no intention of seeing it through? Number 8, being a no-show to the date. Here's my story time. A guy asked me to meet him at a restaurant. This was last August. We were chatting all morning. I told him I was on my way. I got there. I personally never get to a date first, so I was already thinking this might have been a red flag. I messaged him multiple times to figure out what was going on. As I was sitting at the restaurant, 30 minutes in, I realized that in that moment I was being stood up, which was the first time I've ever been stood up in my life. And it is the most uncomfortable, embarrassing feeling. And no, I shouldn't be embarrassed. I didn't do anything wrong, but just to sit there alone thinking that someone was coming and no one did is an unexplainable feeling, and no girl should ever feel like that. So as I sat there at the bar alone, I started crying, and the waitress came over and gave me a free drink because she understood what was already going on immediately, because that was a girl's girl right there. Another guy came up to me to sit next to me. He bought me dinner. I just want to say I wasn't interested in him in that way, but it was nice to have someone there and to have someone to talk to in the moment that I truly needed to feel relief from what had just happened. Number 9, being a fake friend. I have been through a lot of friendships with girls who turned out to be very fake, who turned out to be social climbers or people who wanted to get something out of me and didn't really care about me. There was a girl last year who I had reached out to via TikTok because I saw one of her TikTok videos. She seemed really sweet. She was talking about how she didn't have any friends in New York, and I have been through that journey and still going through this journey of finding my people in New York. And she seemed really sweet, really genuine. So I messaged her on Instagram and I was like, hey, I saw your TikTok video. I would love to hang out whenever you're free. I remember she saw my message, didn't respond for a bit. And in those scenarios, I can understand how there is a possibility that she just forgot to respond. So I wasn't upset about that. What I was a little put off by was when she said, can we hang out and be best friends? Quote, literally, that was a direct excerpt of what she said. I responded, let me know when you want to hang out. And then there was radio silence. Then a few weeks later, she had unfollowed me and then refollowed me. I am such an optimist and I really want to believe that nothing was weird about that scenario. But I really believe that it was weird when she kept watching all my stories, didn't like any of my posts. So I finally removed her because she was giving very weird energy. And here's the thing. You're not going to be for everyone. I'm not for everybody. I completely understand that. But something about that interaction just felt very fake. And I really didn't see her being an actual friend at the end of the day. I had good intentions going into it, which you should always have good intentions going into a situation like that. Not everyone's going to be for you, and it's best to just walk away. Number 10. Yucking someone's yum. So this is essentially being a hater and actively and openly shitting on things that other people enjoy. It's not cute. It's not productive. You can obviously say and do whatever you want in private with your friend group, but what are you achieving with making someone feel bad about what they like and how they're living? and how they do things. What is the objective of that? What is the point? I have so many examples of this, but the most prominent one I must tell is about my apartment furniture layout. This saga started 2 years ago at this point. I created YouTube videos about my apartment decoration process from an empty apartment to getting things in there one by one. And I am a very slow moving person when it comes to getting my house in order. I really wanted to create a space that really felt genuine to me because who's living there? Oh yeah, me. And unfortunately, I got so many negative comments and unsolicited opinions about how my couch was oriented and positioned in my apartment. Every single video had at least 3 or 4 people shitting on how my couch was oriented, disregarding everything in the fucking video, came just to tell me, you should have your couch this way. Why don't you do this? I don't like how you're doing this. Why does that matter how you like or not like what I do in the space that I lay my head, in the space that I live? This is not your apartment. You're allowed to have an opinion, but when you actively want to just be negative about how I'm living, there's zero tolerance for that. And it truly goes back to, if you don't have anything nice to say, don't say it at all. I have hundreds of videos, but I find that there are specifically people who only come to speak up and to assert their opinion when it's a negative one. But weird, I don't hear you saying anything when there's nothing that you don't like. Just look inward. People who do this, I swear, what is the point? Why are you being negative? There's something wrong with how you're thinking if you think that that's okay. Number 11, being violent and threatening. This is honestly a no-brainer. There is no room and zero tolerance for this behavior. Screaming at people, being physically violent, wanting to purposefully intimidate people is disturbing, scary, and unwarranted. I had a scary situation happen in Paris. I was traveling solo in October of 2023, and there was this guy who moved 3 different train carts as I moved to these train carts to sit closer and closer to me. Thankfully, I was on the phone with someone and told him everything that was happening. And when I got off the train, he did too, which confirmed my fears. It was late in the night as well, so I sprinted out of the train station and made sure that I was near a street with a lot of streetlights. And I was also still on the phone. I got to my hotel safely, but it was so unsettling, and it really makes me think, why do people actively want to make you feel scared and uncomfortable? And men wonder why we hate them. Number 12, false advertising. A lot of brands do this, and I wish I can call them out one by one here and now, but I would definitely get in trouble. So I will summarize it by saying there are brands who do not care that their product is deceitful and flat out not good for customers, or even mismarked. Their brand values and mission statements don't align with what the product actually does. Working in social media for as long as I have, this adds a thicker layer to the story because there are so many times I have been met with conflicting feelings towards a brand because their true colors, which is often hidden from the general public, are not seen. And I've had to walk away from a lot of brands over the years because of this. Number 13. Posting photos of your friends they did not like or approve of. Essentially, this is not a girl's girl move. Girls would not do this. And being a girl's girl is the gold standard. So listen up. It's selfish. It's inconsiderate. There are probably a ton of options for photos that you can choose from, but to choose one that your friend intentionally does not look good in is such a bitch move. And also, why wouldn't you just run it by your friend before posting it? Why not? I had a, quote, friend group in San Francisco who would do this to me all the time. There was this one girl who I swear to God, she was jealous of me for who knows what. She would always post stories of the most unflattering photos of me, literally so bad, but she looked decent in behind them. And that is a clear sign that you actually do not like me or you're jealous of me. Because if you feel like you need to stoop to that level multiple times, that speaks volumes. Number 14, using someone's content to directly promo yourself. I had a situation happen to me recently where a girl in a group chat that I created promoted her event within the same message she introduced herself to the group. I was taken aback, but didn't bring anything up until it happened for the third time. I'm a very conscious and decent person who brings things up privately. I wouldn't put anybody on blast publicly unless it was absolutely warranted. I messaged her, I explained the situation and how her messages came off. It's squared away for now, hopefully, but I wanted to call attention to it because if anyone is not being supportive of you and is low-key or high-key trying to profit off of your own work and what you built brick by brick, that is a red flag and a conversation is warranted. And for me, my rule is 2 strikes and you're out. Number 15, being a hypocrite. Literally in any scenario, but the example I want to share here is people who shit on other people on the internet or in real life, but specifically on the internet for a specific thing. Then when a person changes to be more, quote, authentic, they are shitted on in another way. It's like damned if I do, damned if I don't. I've seen so many girls get bullied and hate online for caking on makeup and looking, quote, fake. But when they post something without makeup, they're called ugly. Stop being a hypocrite. Also, let's see if you haters have the courage to do that. You don't, but you're so quick to judge others. You want people to be more authentic, and when they are, you still find something to hate on them for. Do better and be better. A personal example I want to give is with me and my hair. I've gotten hateful messages in the past about how I've chosen to wear my hair over the years. Growing up, I was bullied for having braids. Then I was called not black enough when I wore wigs. Then I was bullied for having thinner hair with my natural hair. So what you're telling me is you get to have an opinion on all the different sides of me and nothing will ever actually be good enough, but you want to run your mouth, and that is not okay. And that's something that I will always speak up on because it's not okay to make someone feel uncomfortable with how they choose to show up and how they choose to live their life. There's nothing that will ever make that okay. And here at Misunderstood, we work on understanding ourselves. That is the foundation of this podcast. There will be people who intentionally misunderstand, mislabel, misinterpret, and flat out be wrong and mean, but we have to keep ourselves and our energy above it. Watch out for any of these instances and keep shining, little miss. And with that, thank you so much for listening to another episode of Misunderstood. Please remember to leave a 5-star rating for the podcast on Spotify and Apple. Also remember to join our Geneva group chat. We have over 200 members, which is so exciting, and I would love to see you there. All of the information is in the show description. Hang out with me on my other socials, TikTok, YouTube, Pinterest, and Instagram at nkmadani. And I will talk to you guys next week.